So I know that this is a hectic time with the Hanukkah and different events and parties and get-togethers, but the study of Torah is not less important than these days because of other things going on. It's more important. Hanukkah is a celebration of divine light, and I know I've shared this a few times. I'll share it again. Hanukkah is the only holiday in which there is no obligation to eat. Now, I know we eat a lot, but there is no obligation. Every other holiday, you're obligated to have a meal. Rosh Hashanah, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, even Purim. The one exception to that is Hanukkah. There's no obligation to eat a meal. Parties are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to get in the way of your parties, but it's not a mitzvah. The mitzvah is to the spirit. It's the most spiritual. All right, let me rephrase it. It is essentially a spiritual holiday, as opposed to a holiday like Purim, which has a very strong physical connotation to it. Hanukkah is a very spiritual holiday. The light represents spirituality. The victory was a spiritual victory. The enemies the Jewish people faced, whether it's Pharaoh or Achashverosh and Haman, they wanted to harm the Jewish body. The Greeks, the Jewish body, they were simply looking to assimilate the Jewish people, harm the Jewish soul. So in that sense, it is a spiritual victory because the threat was a spiritual threat.
Is that what the Russians over the going part?
Yeah, well, that's a.
Something different.
I know that's a very fascinating observation, but it takes a lot to unpack that. So we'll have to save that next time. Yes, but the point is that Hanukkah is a spiritual victory, and therefore, if it's a mistake if we go through the holiday and just think of it in terms of presents and latkes and donuts and parties, that's really a big mistake. That's really a big mistake because the holiday was a spiritual. It was a attack against divinity, the soul, and therefore the victory was a victory of the soul. So l'chaim, therefore, how critical is it that we study Torah? One of the things the Greeks forbade was the study of Torah. So if we go through the holiday, we don't study Torah, we're allowing the Greeks to have victory. So the study of Torah is part of the victory of Hanukkah, is part of the story. So l'chaim l'vracha, to a holiday of salvation, to a holiday of spiritual light, but miracles that we need, the Jewish people need, specifically those who are battling the dark forces that exist today, those who are battling in Eretz Yisrael and Gaza, may they experience salvation and light, l'chaim l'vracha.
Look at your candles and half an hour after reflect on it.
Exactly. Menorahs in Gaza this year.
I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see that gigantic menorah that put up in the building?
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into it. So, the holiday of Hanukkah is the only holiday which does not have its own tractate. Say maybe Shavuos also. Shavuos is connected to Moed Katan, but Hanukkah is the one holiday. Purim has its own tractate. Rosh Hashanah has a tractate. Yom Kippur has a tractate. Sukkot has a tractate. Pesach has a tractate. Hanukkah does not have a tractate in the Talmud. Hanukkah is also the last holiday we have. In other words, it's the last story that has been turned into a holiday. It's the final one. Because Purim was during the intermediate time between the first and second temple, and Hanukkah was during the era of the second temple. So the laws of Hanukkah are mentioned in the middle of Tractate Shabbos. What's the connection between Shabbos and Hanukkah? Candles. Very good. So in the Tractate Shabbos, Perek Sheni, chapter 2, where it talks about the laws of Shabbos candles, it pauses to tell us the laws of Hanukkah candles. Yeah.
Let's try to take that. See Shabbos.
Yeah, Tractate Shabbos, Daf Chaf Aleph, page 21. I'm trying to think where exactly we should start. Okay. Tana Rabbanan. So here we're going to study some ideas which you may be familiar with, but here we'll learn it from the source. Tana Rabbanan, our sages taught, mitzvahs Chanukah. You want to know what the mitzvah of Chanukah is? What is the mitzvah? What is the obligation of Chanukah? Ner, ish, ubeso. The mitzvah of Chanukah is to light one candle in your home for 8 nights. That's the mitzvah.
This for the light, not burn, or just the light?
To light in such a way that it will burn for a period of time. In other words, you have to light the candle has to be kindled in such a way that it could last for a half hour after sunset, after nightfall. So the mitzvah, but again, the mitzvah is one candle for 8 nights, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The primary obligation is one candle 8 nights straight. That's just one. That's 8 total candles. That is the mitzvah. Mahadrin means those who are more careful. The actual word mahadrin means those who beautify. Muhudar means beautiful. Those who are more careful in mitzvahs. So the next level up is ner l'chol echad ve'echad. That everyone in the home should light a candle for 8 nights. So everyone, let's say you have 3, 4 members in the home, everyone lights one candle for 8 nights straight. Then vahamahadrin min hamahadrin. What is the double stringency? So here you have a disagreement. What is the most? So we have the basic law is one person lights one candle every night. A more stringent approach is everyone should light a candle every night. And then the highest level, mahadrin min hamahadrin. So here you have 2 opinions. Beis Shammai omrim. Beis Shammai says Risho madlik shmona. On the first day, you should light 8 candles. Mikan ve'elach posech v'holech. And then from then on, you diminish. So the first night you light 8 candles. Second night you light 7 candles. Third night you light 6 candles. Well, Beis Hillel Omer, that's opinion Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says Yom Rishon madlik achas. The first night you light 1. Mikan ve'elach posech v'holech. And from here on, you go up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the common practice, which we have today, is in accordance with the opinion of Beis Hillel, but it's double stringent. In other words, if someone wants to fulfill the obligation of Hanukkah, all they have to do is light 1 candle every night. Not with a shamash, right? Even the shamash comes later, but
Shamash would be considered the one candle?
No, it can't be the shamash. So it would be 2. But you could fulfill, if a person doesn't have a shamash and just lights the candles, they have fulfilled the mitzvah. The shamash is only. No, what if I only have 1 candle and I have a match? So then I light the candle. Yeah, but the match goes out.
Shamash, there's no like the shamash.
It should be there because what is the purpose of the shamash? The shamash is not there to light the candle. The shamash is there because it is forbidden to derive benefit from the light of the candles. So therefore, we put a separate candle to say, just in case you need light, here, you have the shamash. So if you need to check your watch, do it by the shamash, not by the other candles. Yeah, let's go around. Several questions coming up. Go ahead. No, let's go.
Beeswax candle for the shamash.
Yep.
Doesn't seem to last as long as the oil.
Right. The oil usually lasts. The oil can last longer, so it doesn't have to last. It doesn't have to last as long as your menorah lasts, but it should be there. Certainly for the first half hour, ideally. Beeswax is considered to be a very clean flame. That's why people have the custom of using beeswax. It's a clean flame. Yeah. Those who use oil for this use beeswax for the shamash. Yes. Okay. So the point over here is that the mitzvah would be 1 candle every night. The second level of stringency would be everyone lighting a candle every night. But then the most stringent, mahadrin and mahadrin, here you have Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai says start with 8, go down to 1. Hillel says start with 1, go up to 8.
There's one here to do that.
Does everyone have to do that? So that's a good question. That's a good question. And let me
everybody have to like the same way? What was the question?
The question is does everyone have to light? What's the tradition? Should everyone light or should one person light? Is level 3 including level 2? I know there's level 2. What did level 2 add to level 1? Is it not just one person, but every person? But now level 3 comes and says it should be a total of not 8 candles, but how many candles? 42 candles? So is it every person, or does that go back to the first point, which is one person, but that one person should be 1 to 8? So actually, this is an interesting difference between Ashkenaz and Sephardim, and that is that in Sephardi communities, it is only one menorah per home. I believe so. And in Ashkenaz, it is more of a tradition that at least others will light. I don't know if everyone in the house, but others will light as well.
Like all the Sephardi events.
I mean, it's a different type of benching, but a different nusach.
Read the whole benching and everybody says like.
Oh, I don't know if that's the ideal. Even in there, so even yeah. Well, what's interesting.
Source for that faith within one.
Okay, so I'm what you would just to let me read what I just said because it's brought on over here in the commentary to your questions. I'll just read it as it's very clearly elaborated upon. So after, and this is the footnote number 25. Those of you who have the Art Scroll Gemara. So here's what it says. What is this third level? In other words, the highest level of stringency. There is a dispute between Tosfos and Rambam. So Tosfos are the French sages of what's known as the Tosafos, and they lived 800-900 years ago. And the Rambam, who was also within that era of time, about 800-900 years ago, and they have a disagreement about how to interpret this second level of enhancement. Okay, you got to pay attention here. Rambam, Maimonides, understands that it supplements the first level. If one wishes to embellish the basic mitzvah, he kindles 1 light for every member of his household on each night of Hanukkah. If he wishes to enhance the mitzvah even further, he adds, according to Beis Hillel, another light for every member on each succeeding night. So the Rambam says that that 3 is in addition to 2. Right? Is everyone following this?
No.
Level 2. Okay, let me rephrase it. So let's go through the 3 levels. So let's clarify the first 2 levels. Level 1, let's say my home should have 1 candle burning every night. Level 2, every member of my home should have a candle burning every night. Now, level 3, there's a lack of clarity. Level 3, let's just go with Beis Hillel now, not just confuse things. Beis Hillel says the highest level is 1 the first night, 2 the second night, 3 the third night, 4 the fourth night. But was he saying that in addition to level 2, or just going back to level 1? Is he saying everyone in the home should do 1, 2, 3, 4? Or is he saying go back to the first level, which is only 1 person, but that 1 person should do 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay. So the Rambam says that he's saying, no, that which you did on level 2, but even more so. Every person should light, but not 1 light every night. Every person should light 1, 2, 3, 4 up until 8. Get out and buy a candle factory. That's what he says. Tosfos understands, however, that the 2 levels of enhancement are unrelated. Rather, they are alternate choices for how to enhance the basic mitzvah.
Each person, like the 1 menorah.
So again, Tosfos would say you go back to 1 menorah for the house, but this 1 menorah, instead of 1 candle every night, should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hence, according to Tosfos, one who wishes to embellish the basic mitzvah should light 1 light for every household member in each night of Hanukkah, but one who wishes to enhance the mitzvah in a better way should kindle 1 light for the entire household on the first night, 2 the second night, 3 the third night, and so on. Rambam says, so bottom line, let's just say bottom line. Rambam says everyone in the house should have a menorah and light 1, followed by 2, followed by 3, followed by 4. So you have 5 members in the house, 5 menorahs like that. Tosfos says no. Tosfos says the 3rd level does not require everyone to do that. Just 1 person should do that, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's what's fascinating about this. What's fascinating about this is that Rambam generally is considered to be, for those familiar with the Ashkenaz Svara dynamic, halachic Ashkenaz Svara dynamic, Rambam is aligned, was Ashkenaz or Sfarad? Sephardi. The Rambam was Sephardi. He's one of the great leaders of the Sephardi Jewish world. And yet, Tosfos was Ashkenaz. And yet, in this situation, the Ashkenazim follow the Rambam more so, because in Ashkenaz homes you will see several menorahs, and Sephardim follow the Tosfos, not like the Rambam, in which generally they stick to one menorah per home. All right, so that's just something interesting over here. Yes, exactly. We're just here to confuse you. All right, very good. Let's go on. Now the question is, what is the logic behind the disagreement between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai? Why, if imagine you were to establish the holiday of Hanukkah based on the miracle that happened, would you suggest starting with 1 and going to 8? Or would you imagine starting with 8 and going down to 1? There's logic to both, right? I mean, you could say that you're counting down for the days of the miracles. You start with 8, you go down to 1, 8 days left, 7 days left, 6 days left. So what exactly is the disagreement? What is the core disagreement between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai? So in good old Talmudic fashion, there's a disagreement about what the disagreement is about. So there's 2 opinions as to what they were arguing about. So that's only Jews can do that. We can argue about what they're arguing about. So that's what goes on here. Amar Ula says, Pligu batre Amarai. There were 2 sages, V'ma'arava, in the west. What is the west? When the Talmud says the west, it's referring to Israel, because the Talmud was in Babylonia. So over here he's saying, Ula said there's 2 sages in the west. In Israel, Babylonia, which is modern day Iraq. So parenthetically, I get a coffee sometimes from one of the shops over here. In the shop, there's often a large gathering of Chaldeans that sit together, and they. So this morning I went, and they pulled me over. They want to wish me a happy Hanukkah, and they want to pledge to show solidarity. It's very nice. Anyway, so they're from where? Many of them are from this area, from the area of Iraq or around. This where they come from. So, anyways, when you're in Iraq and you're describing the West, you're talking about Israel. So Ula says there were 2 sages in the West who disagreed about what Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel were disagreeing about. The 2 sages who were disagreeing were Rabbi Yossi bar Avin and Rabbi Yossi bar Zvida. These 2 people both named Rabbi Yossi. Chad Amar, one said, the argument is as follows. The logic of the argument is as follows. Time of the Beis Shammai, the reason for Beis Shammai is Keneged Yomim Hanichnasim. Is that Beis Shammai says you should light the candles corresponding to the days that are yet to come, the incoming days of the miracle. In other words, you should say there's still 8 miraculous days left. Today, when we light the menorah, we should say there's 8 miraculous days left. Therefore, you light 8 candles. The time of Beis Hillel says, Keneged Yomim Hayotzim. You should celebrate the days that have already passed. Days that have already passed. Now, I want to share a couple of things in this. So you have Beis Shammai says celebrate the days ahead. Beis Hillel says celebrate the days that have already passed. So what may be okay? But what caused each one to say that? What is it that caused each one to say that? I want to share 2 things. One is from the Ben Yehoyada, the Ben Ish Chai, who says Beis Hillel's reasoning is understandable. For the continually increasing number of lights reflects the nature of the miracle, right? The candles say the miracle right now was a miracle of 1 night. 2 nights, 2 lights says the miracle is now 2 nights of miracles. So he says, but what's the logic behind Beis Shammai's approach of diminishing the miracle? So he explains like this, that the flask of oil that was found should have been, this is one of the answers. Here's how Ben Yehoyada answers. He says, what's the logic of Beis Shammai, right? Beis Hillel's logic seems to make more sense. every night celebrate the amount of days the miracle lasted. So the first night was one miraculous night, so you light one candle. Second night was two miraculous nights, you should light two candles. That seems to make more sense. What is the logic of Beis Shammai? So he says you have to understand what happened. You have to understand the miracle. The flask of oil was that they poured the oil into the menorah, right? Now, it was only enough to last one night. He says, but every night, only 1/8 of the oil was diminished. So every night, only 1/8 of the oil, which should have gone. Let's say a night usually takes 8 ounces. Every night, only 1 ounce was missing of the oil. He says, based on that, Beis Shammai basically says, the first night you should light 8 candles because the first night there was 8 candles worth of oil left in the menorah. The second night, there was only 7 candles worth of oil in the menorah because 1/8 was missing. The third night, 2/8 were missing. Once you understand the miracle was that an eighth was diminished every day. So the first day there was 8 days worth of oil. Second day, 7 days worth of oil. Third day, 6 days worth of oil. This idea of the Ben Yehoyada is one of the answers given to the most major question about Hanukkah. There's a question which was asked by the Beis Yosef, and this is the most famous question about Hanukkah. What's the question? Why do we celebrate 8 days of Hanukkah? Seemingly, we should only celebrate 7 days of Hanukkah. Why? Why should we only celebrate 7 days of Hanukkah? Anybody here understand what's the logic to only 7 days? First day wasn't a miracle. Excellent. The first day is not a miracle. The oil was supposed to last 1 day. So the first day wasn't miraculous. When they came, but the fact that it burnt the first day was nothing unusual. That's what it was supposed to last 1 day. The miracle was a 7-day miracle. So then why do we celebrate 8 days? So there's a book out there with 150 answers to this question. Everyone wants to answer this question. So, but the Ben Yehoyada, one of the answers to this question is, you're right. The first day is not celebrating the oil. The first day is celebrating the victory of war. Or the first day is celebrating the fact that they found the oil. So there's all sorts of answers to the question. But one answer is based on what the Ben Yehoyada just said, which is that when they came back after the first day, the oil was missing only 1/8, which means even the first day was miraculous because 1/8 of the oil burnt for an entire day. 1/8 of what should have lasted, only 1/8 was missing. So already that first day was already miraculous because 1/8 lasted for a full day. 1/8 of what should last for a full day lasted for a full day. So that answers that question as well. Fine. So far we have one explanation of the disagreement between Beis Shammai and Hillel, which is that do you count the days that pass or the day that is coming? And then there's another, but the other Rebbe Yossi said, no, the disagreement was connected to something else. V'chad Amar says, Taima de Beis Shammai, the reason Beis Shammai says that we start at 8 and go down to 1 is Kineged Parei Chag, corresponding to the bull sacrifices of the Sukkot festival. So if you look in the holiday of Sukkot, you'll notice that we start with we start with 13 sacrifices on the first day of Sukkot and slowly make our way down. 12 the second day, 11 the third day, 10 the fourth day. So when it comes to Sukkot, we see that Sukkot, we begin we begin and we diminish. And therefore, Beis Shammai says, if we're going to go through this process, diminish, just like in Sukkot we diminish. The time of the Beis Hillel, and the reason why Beis Hillel says we start with 1 and go up to 8, and here you have a very critical principle that's important in all areas of Judaism, and that is Dema'alim ba'kodesh ve'ein moridin. Because in sacred matters, we should elevate and not go lower. What a simple yet profound message. Beis Hillel says a principle which is that in Judaism, we go up, we don't go down. And as simple as it sounds, as basic as it sounds, it's also very practical. Be careful to jump higher than you can. Be careful to when embracing a mitzvah, embracing an observance, make sure that you'll be able to maintain it and then continue to rise. Right? Because if you take more than you can handle, what's going to end up happening is you're going to go down in your level of Torah observance. So it's important in Judaism to calculate. The calculator is, am I moving upward in my Jewish observance? And that's why often, when it comes to the idea talking about a person's level of Judaism, often we focus on how religious are they? How religious is this person? What is their level and what do they identify as? And in their Judaism, how religious are they? But from what the Gemara Hill teaches over here is that just as important as to know how religious one is, it's important to ask oneself, am I moving upward? And a person may be very religious, but they're on the way down. So someone who may be less religious, but is on the way up, someone who is constantly striving to serve Hashem greater, to daven better, to study more, to do more mitzvahs, so then perhaps they're at a better place because they're on their way up in their Yiddishkeit. And Hill says, when it comes to holiness, one should always be on the way up. Okay, I want to continue another practical area of Gemara, of Chanukah. Tana Rabban and our sages taught. Ner Chanukah, the candle of Chanukah, mitzvah, it is a mitzvah lahanicha, to place it al Pesach beiso mibachutz, to place it on the outside of your home. The outside of your home. Not the way we do it, which is most of us like the menorah inside your house, either by a window or by the door. But actually the mitzvah is outside your door. Let me clarify a little bit about the way houses were then. In the times of the Gemara, houses were generally built around the courtyard. So there's a common courtyard and then houses around the courtyard. One entered the courtyard from the street and entered the house from the courtyard. You still see this in some places. Imagine the street leads to a courtyard. The courtyard is surrounded by houses. So the Chachamim wanted that the Chanukah miracle should be publicized. So therefore they said, you should light the menorah outside your house so that everyone in the courtyard could see it. That's the way Rashi understands this Gemara. Rashi understands the Gemara that do it outside the courtyard, outside of your house, so that everyone in the courtyard could see it. Tosfos actually has a different opinion. He says, actually, in a situation where you live in a courtyard, your house opens to a courtyard, and the courtyard opens to the street, he says everyone should go to the entrance of the courtyard and light the menorah there. That's how important it is to publicize. It's not enough to publicize it just to the families that live in your courtyard. Rather, you should light it outside the entrance of the courtyard so that everyone on the street can see it. Be that as it may, clearly, initially, the menorah was meant to be lit outside your house, not in your house by the door, but outside your house. Till today, if you go to Israel, you'll see that many people, when they can, have a little menorah container. It has to be a container, otherwise the wind blows it out. But it's a container with like a glass covering, and they'll light the menorah and place it outside of the home. Because the Chanukah menorah is very unique in that it is, I don't know if there's any other mitzvah like it, which the sole purpose of the mitzvah is to publicize what happened. Why is this, the mitzvah is meant to publicize what happened? That's a good question. And there's different answers given to this question as to what's the idea behind it. From a Hasidic standpoint, I'm jumping a little bit to the Hasidic standpoint. There's maybe answers which are more according to the simple understanding. Maybe there's a sense that the story happened within the confines of the Beis HaMikdash. So we want to publicize a miracle that took place in a private domain. We want to make sure everyone knows about it. But on a Hasidic level, the idea is because Chanukah represents the light that breaks through darkness, more so than the other lights we have. So we have Shabbos candles, and we have candles we have the Shabbos candles at the beginning of Shabbos, we have Shabbos candles at the end of Shabbos, right? The Havdalah candles, we have holiday candles, but the Chanukah menorah represents the idea of light that penetrates the darkness. And being that the darkness is outside, so therefore we light the menorah on the outside. We say we take the menorah to the darkness. We don't. Shabbos represents making your home almost like an island of goodness, of holiness. And those closing the door, making sure that your home is an environment of light despite the darkness that surrounds you. Chanukah says no, don't bring it in. That you have the power with the candle that we light to actually eliminate the darkness that is outside. So that's the Hasidic answer to that question of why Chanukah has that mitzvah. Yeah. No such thing. I'm sorry, I'm going to grab.
So, should you live stream your menorah lighting? That'd be helpful. Say you come home, right? Like for your household.
Okay, so the question is,
Would live streaming help your, putting it out to the public, so to say? And I'm not a live streamer, and I'm not asking something.
Right.
Just something nowadays that changes.
All right, so the question poses: should one live stream their menorah lighting? Once we say that it's about publicizing the miracle, should you live stream the menorah lighting? The answer is yes and no. Yeah, we're going to try. Listen, we just learned that you could argue about an argument, so we can get away with anything. The reason you could say yes and no is because on the one Hanukkah, like for example, I have a menorah on top of my car, and actually, Zizi was driving it today, and she said she got a lot of thumbs up and positive, So I just remember it was a couple of years ago. I was driving my light. I was driving in my car with the menorah on top of it, and a car pulled up next to me, and I saw her looking at me, and like she motioned take down the window, and I was sure it was like going to be a real positive message of like, I love the menorah. I'm so proud of you. Roll down the window, smile. She's like, your tail light is out. So much for the uplifting message. But either way, so you have that menorah, or the electric menorahs that we have, it fulfills one half of the idea. Yes, it fulfills the idea of pursuing Nisa. It does get the message out there. That's why you should do it. But it's important to recognize the mitzvah has to be done in its natural way. So the mitzvah has to be done with an actual fire and with people being able to see it, not just virtually, but see it literally. So you have to. That's why I say yes and no. Yes, I think it's a good thing to do if you can spread the menorah, but not at the expense of the literal obligation, which is an actual flame, and a flame in a way that everyone can see it. So, for example, you have to light the menorah at your doorway or at a window where people can see it. Now, I can argue, what if I light it in a basement room, but I stream it online and I have 300 people seeing it? So that going down the simple road of logic, it's more pursuing Nisa. No, then nonetheless, the answer is no. You still have to do it in its literal way in which you light it in such a way that people can see it. And then if you want to add to that today's technology, which allows us to spread the miracle far and wide, sure, but not at the expense of the simple obligation. Continue. This is exact segue into what the Gemara says over here. The Gemara says, so the mitzvah is to place it on the outside of your house. What if you live on an upper floor? So you live on an upper floor, so you can't put it by the doorway, the entrance of the courtyard. So it says, then you should place it in a window that's close to the public domain. So the whole idea of a window in the Gemara is basically just if you can't put it by the entrance to the road, then you can suffice with a window. And if there's a time of danger, situations which is dangerous to light the menorah, dangerous for religious reasons, in which the over here, Shasa Sakana, just so you know, Rashi says, we can imagine throughout history, there have been many times in which lighting menorahs were dangerous. But Rashi says specifically, the Gemara is referring to, there was a time in which the Parsium, the Persians, had a holiday. And on this holiday, their rule, and the Persians at some point had control over the Jews, their rule was the only place where candles could be allowed was in their churches. So that would be a situation in which lighting a candle publicly would be dangerous. So he says in such a situation, it doesn't say don't light. It says light it on your table, al shulchan v'dayet. You can do it privately so nobody else will see. Amar Rava now adds another point, which is the point of that we are very familiar with. Rava says, Sarach ner acheres lehishtamesh la'ora. What we call the shamish. Where does the word shamish come from? Shamish comes from the word use. L'shamesh means to use. So because the Hanukkah menorah itself is forbidden to make use of, and especially in the olden days where candles were how you were able to see. So therefore, he says, light another candle so that if you are going to open a book, instead of using the light of the menorah, you'll use the light of the shamish. So that's where the concept of the shamish comes from. Shamish is so that it's not to light the candles. It's so that if you need to use light, you'll have another candle to use for its light. And if You have a torch burning in the room, so you don't even need a shamash because you have a light burning in the room. Okay, I'm not getting to everything over here, but I want to get to the next two Gemaras. One is what the famous Gemara called My Hanukkah. What exactly is Hanukkah? And the other is the answer to the question I posted in the text. Now the Gemara goes on to say, My Hanukkah, what exactly is Hanukkah? We've been talking about the laws. We haven't said what the holiday is, what the miracle is. So here's what the Gemara says. Tana Rabban and our sages taught. The Chafei Kislev Yom the Hanukkah, the 25th of Kislev, the days of Hanukkah begin. And Tamni Inun, there are 8 days. What is unique about these days? The Lo Lemispad Bahon. We don't eulogize on these days. So there's no eulogy given for the next 8 days. So if you want a good eulogy, then I caution you against dying over the next week or so. You shouldn't die for a very long time, but just saying that's the halacha. You're not allowed to eulogize in these days. You're not allowed to fast on these days. Why is that? Which, by the way, what does that tell you? The holiday is about not fasting and not eulogizing. It doesn't say anything about eating and drinking. That's the holiday. The holiday is a prohibition against sadness. It's not an obligation of eating. Why? When the Greeks, the Syrian Greeks, entered the Heichal, the holy temple, they defiled all of the oils that were in the Heichal. They defiled them. There's the laws of purity and impurity. And they defiled and they made them all impure. And when the house of the Chashmonaim, the Maccabees, was strengthened, and overpowered the Yevanim, Badku, they searched, and they only found 1 jug of olive oil, which retained the seal of the Kohen Gadol, and it only had enough to kindle to last for 1 day. And a miracle happened, and the miracle happened, and the oil lasted for 8 days. The next year, the next year they established it and made it 8 days of Halal Hodah, praise and thanks of Hashem. So again, we find 2 descriptions of what the holiday is. The beginning it says you don't fast and you don't eulogize, and the end it says days of praise and thanks. That's the essence of the miracle, because of the fact that the oil lasted for 8 days. That's the source of the story. This is the source which everyone knows. The story that we all know, this is the source of it. The Kohen Gadol would, his seal ensured that it was pure. It wasn't defiled. Now let's get to the Gemara. We asked about the text. Let's see where it is. I have to jump a lot to get to this. In the text I asked, what is it if you could only afford Shabbos candles or Hanukkah candles? Which could you use? Anyone want to venture an answer? Unless you maybe know the answer. But if you're guessing, anyone want to guess? What's that? Which is? So Shabbos comes the most. There's a general principle of tadir she'ena tadir tadir kodem. That which is a common and mitzvah and a less common mitzvah. The common mitzvah comes first. Okay. Amar Rava. Rava answers the question. Rava says in Daf 23b, very, very important line of the Gemara. Amar Rava. Rava said, Pshitali, it is obvious to me, Ner Beso, the candle of your home, which means the Shabbos candle for your home, the Ner Chanukah, and the Chanukah candle. If you have one or the other, you can only have one, either a Chanukah candle or a Shabbos candle. Which should it be? Ner Beso Adif. The Shabbos candle is more important. Now, even though good answers were given, but the reason here's something else. Ner Beso Adif. The reason why the candle of your house is more important. Why? Mishum Shalom Bayis. Because the Shabbos candles are for Shalom Bayis, to bring peace in your home. Why do we have Shabbos candles? Why do we have Shabbos candles? The reason we have Shabbos candles is so that your house will be lit on Shabbos, so you'll have a peaceful home. That's the reason for Shabbos candles, to have peace in your home. So Hanukkah candles are to commemorate a miracle. Shabbos candles are to bring peace to your home. Says Rava, it is obvious to me that between these 2 values, the value of peace to your home is more important, and therefore, if you can only afford one and not the other, you should buy Shabbos candles. Now you may say, why shouldn't I just use both? Why can I have one candle which suffices both Shabbos and Hanukkah? The answer is you can't, because the laws are different. The Shabbos candles you're meant to benefit from. The Hanukkah candles you're not allowed to benefit from. The Shabbos candles are lit inside your house. The Hanukkah candles are lit outside your house. The Shabbos candles are lit before sundown. Hanukkah candles, okay, before Shabbos we also light them before sundown, but the rest of the week we light them after sundown. So you actually cannot fulfill both with one candle because they have opposite ideals. They have opposite messages. Yeah.
Light up the world and let other people see the light.
Yeah.
Benefiting by seeing the light.
It's so you ask a good point. It's a it's a subtle point to say not to technically benefit from the light, but at the same time you could learn from it. I can see it, I can be inspired by it, but not to hishtamish bahem means don't use it. You can't use it, and others don't use it for warmth, don't use it for light. You can look at it and be moved by it, but not to use it. So you're right. Of course, we enjoy them. When we look at them, we enjoy it. But what are we enjoying? We're enjoying the concept of the light. We're not technically deriving benefit from the light. So yes, that's the answer to that.
Something that God wants everybody
Observe the Shabbos.
to observe the Shabbos. So Shabbos overrides pretty much everything besides Yom Kippur.
That's a great point. Shabbos overrides everything, but the Shabbos candles are rabbinic. You're right. If the Torah would say, I understand, but if the Torah would say you have to light Shabbos candles, it wouldn't even be a question. That would mean the Shabbos candles is Torahic and the Hanukkah candles are rabbinic. Torahic always overrides rabbinic. The point over here is that both are rabbinic. Shabbos candles are rabbinic. Both Shabbos candles, both Shabbos candles and Hanukkah candles are each one. There's 7 rabbinic commandments. One of them is Shabbos candles. One of them is Hanukkah candles. So they are in the same status when it comes to Hanukkah. When it comes to strength. So that's why this question is significant. They're both rabbinic and they're both candles. I can only afford one. What should it be? The answer is Shabbos candle. All right, I'm at 1% of the phone, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This is the miracle of Hanukkah. The 1% on the phone, it's going to last for 8 whole days. All right, Hanukkah, everyone. Yes,
Good one.
yes, we do. Hanukkah candles, the 4 Shabbos candles. And Hanukkah candles after the Havdalah candle. Be well, everyone. Good Shabbos and a Freilich Hanukkah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Class next Thursday. I'm going to be in New York, God willing, to celebrate the wedding of a niece. So I don't think there will be a Gemara class next week.
All right. Hag Sameach, Mazal Tov.
Thank you. Chag Sameach. Thank you.
Shabbat
Thank you.
shalom, Rabbi. Happy Hanukkah.
Can't fast.